guys, it's Jessica from Peace Love Books, and today I'm here with my favorite romance authors that I've discovered in 2021. These are authors, almost all of them I've only read for the first time this year. I think there are one or two that I read last year, but I only read like a book and I wasn't that impressed, but now they are considered some of my favorite authors. Some of these will overlap with my favorite books of 2021, but I'm waiting to film that until the end of December. Like until the last book I read in December, I'm waiting to film my favorite books of the year because that's not fair to my December books if I don't. But I am pre-filming this. I'm doing a video a day in December if you couldn't tell, and it's December 4th because I have a pretty busy next 2 weeks, and so I'm filming a lot of videos early. So I'm filming this and my most disappointing reads today because these two are ones that I feel like I can film already and I won't be like devastated if there's something else I read this month that I didn't include on this list. So I'm gonna go ahead and talk about them. I don't even know how many are on this list. There's a lot, so I will get started. The first one's an author that I am dying to read more from, and I know a lot of people have read this because of me. That is Kiwi Tyler. Now, a lot of people don't love that there's cheating in here, which I talk about every time I talk about this book, but I love Kiwi Tyler now. This book was a marriage and trouble romance with amnesia, and I just love angsty romances. If you write an angsty romance, I'm gonna love it so much, and this one was angsty to me. And he is in an accident, loses his memory of the last few years when their marriage fell apart, and he had cheated on her in that time, and now he is devastated that he let the marriage be ruined, and he's like, why, how could I do that to my wife? And they need to figure things out, and she's the one that has to take care of him, and it's so good. I'm obsessed, and I'm really excited to read more from Kiwi Tyler. The next author is one that you guys know I literally read like 6 of her books in the last month, and I will devour anything she writes. This is an author that I read a couple books from last year and was okay, and I've actually read one of her books in like 2015, and I gave it 5 stars and apparently really loved it, and I don't remember anything about that book, so I'm gonna reread it, but it's my goal of 2022 to read her entire backlist. That is Lorraine Heath. Talk about angsty. Like, these books are so angsty. This one made me cry. Like, it was the only one of her books that made me cry, but the angst in her romances and the incredible plot twist, like the Scoundrels of St. James series is one of my favorite. They're all children who grew up on the streets together and now are having their own romances, and then I didn't realize I read their children's book series first, and now I'm like, oh my gosh, these characters I saw as children in the other series, but I love her so much. This one is like kind of insta-love, but she was lying to him and is just trying to get money out of him, and he figures it out, and then he's like, I'll give you the money if you spend the night with me, or like a week with me. And then she has a really adorable family, and it's just so good. Like, all of her books are amazing. I think the lowest I've given her books is a 4-star, and her plot twists are incredible, and I'm obsessed with Lorraine Heath. The next author is an author that really blew up on social media this year, and I'm so happy to see her success as an indie author, and that is Sophie Lark. I love this book, and now I've been seeing some people who it's not their cup of tea, which is totally fine because it is a bully romance, I guess. Like, he's a serial killer, okay? And so you have to know he's gonna do some things that are really messed up. Like, he's literally a psychopath, and so I love books like that. I love morally gray heroes, and so this isn't though your typical like high school bully romance. This one is, they're adults, they're artists. He is a very, very famous artist, but he's also a serial killer, and there's another colleague of his that's also a serial killer, and she gets kind of in the mix with them, and she's an aspiring artist, and it is just so good. The things they do to each other are just so entertaining, and I love the complexity of their romance and how she develops falling for a serial killer. And so I love this. I still have to read book 2. I'm going to this week. Hopefully today I'm going to start it, but oh my goodness, I love Sophie Lark. And then her first 2 books in her Brutal Birthright series are mafia romances. I love. So a lot of these books, like, I love that some people might not like, is because you have to know what you're getting when you get into them. And if you want serial killers and mafia romances, read Sophie Lark. Then I have an author who unfortunately passed away this year, and I discovered her for the first time. She has pen names. She has 2 pen names that I've absolutely loved, but the one is St. Abby with the Mind F series. I absolutely devoured these books, and they are serial killer romances. I'm sorry I have weird tastes in plot lines. But this one is our heroine's actually a serial killer and falls for an FBI profiler, and he is working her case and also another case that kind of affects her life. And as the books go on, you understand why she is the way she is and who she's killing and why. And every book ends on a cliffhanger, and it's just amazing, and I was obsessed with the romances, and it's amazing. I also started her paranormal reverse harem series under Christy Cunning, and I really love that series. It is, but I've only read the first two, but I'm planning on finishing it, and that is a ghost romance. Like, she is a ghost and they are like demon slayer things, and they all have to go through this competition. So we have a lot of trials that go on too, and it's so good. I love these, and I would definitely recommend checking out this author. This author blew to the top of my favorite authors list just with one book, and that is Amanda Quick. Like, how have I not been reading her books before this? I knew everybody loved her as a classic historical romance author. I finally picked this up for Historical Hellions, and it blew me away. Just like the adorable, loving nature of the relationship between the hero and the heroine. He is like a really feared person because he is, I think he's a Viscount. He is like questioned to have murdered his fiance, I think, and so everybody's like terrified of him, and she ends up having to have a marriage of convenience with him, and she literally like punches someone for saying awful things about him in the middle of a ball, because she is like, this is my husband and he is a good man and you need to stop talking. And I just love that. I loved how smitten they were with each other, and she is a paleontologist, so she loves looking at fossils, and it's just amazing. So I love Amanda Quick, and I immediately bought the entirety of her backlist on eBay, so I have all of her books now, and I plan on reading many more in 2022. Not her entire backlist, I don't think I can get to that, of her historicals, because she does only write romantic suspense now. I think it's Jane Ann Krantz is her other pen name, but her historicals I really need to get to. Then another favorite of mine is Anna Harrington. If the Duke Demands was like one of my favorite historical romances of the year, one of mine of all time. It has to do with a hero and a heroine trying to help each other get other people, and they fall for each other. I also started this series and I read I think 3 of them, and I really enjoyed them. Anna Harrington is definitely someone I want to read more of her backlist as well, and I'm happy I discovered her romances. This author's book came out at the very end of 2020, so her new book recently just came out. My mom actually still has it. I need to take that back from her because my mom read this one and liked it, so I lent her my new copy of her new book, but that is Denise Williams. I really loved How to Fail at Flirting, and her newest one, The Fastest Way to Fall, I think is like a workout romance. Like, I think he's her personal trainer, which I'm so excited for. But in this one, they like had a really funny first date that was like really awkward, and I love just like awkward characters because it's so relatable, because that's just how real life is, and then they start falling for each other. She is actually working for a university though, and her department might get cut, and he's working for the company that is like not auditing, but like trying to figure out what departments are worth keeping at her university, and so things get a little like twisted, just like if their relationship is okay and like personal versus professional lives. But I really enjoyed this one, and I'm excited to read more from her. Another absolute favorite historical romance author of mine that I discovered is Scarlett Peckham. The Ray Hess, you guys know I've been like raving about all year, but I really also love The Duke I Tempted, and I want to read more from the series and more from her. I feel like she's either an author you love or you really don't like, and I just love her books so much. And in this one, it's a marriage of convenience, and he had lost someone in his past. I'm pretty sure he lost someone because he has to do something to cope with that loss and doesn't tell our heroine, and she feels very betrayed by that. But she also is really into plants and was hired by his sister to make a ball full of a garden kind of thing. It was really good. I really love this one, so I'm excited to read more from Scarlett Peckham, and I'm dying for book 2 of the Ray Hess series, but it hasn't come out, and it was supposed to come out this year, so I don't know what's happening there, but we shall see. Then I didn't realize that I'd read this author's historicals for the first time this year, and that is Courtney Milan. I really love The Duchess War, and I didn't love, though, her other book that came out. I don't remember where it is, but this one I really loved, and I had read her contemporary before, and I enjoyed it, so I'm really excited to have picked this up. Our heroine has PTSD over something that happened in her past that she doesn't tell our hero, and our hero is falling for her, and there's this whole plot line with like someone trying to rile up the workers in the factories to go on strike, and so she's trying to stay under the radar, and it's so good, and the ending's so sweet, and he falls so hard for her. I just love this book so much, so I'm excited to read more in the series and read more of Courtney Milan's historicals. Then I have Jodi Slaughter, who is actually publishing traditionally next year, which is really exciting, but I'd only read her indie published stuff, but I really like To Be Alone With You, which is her quarantine romance, and it's an age gap, and it's a second chance, and I love the fact that our heroine had tried to get with him before and he completely denied her because she was a lot younger, and that was like way before when she was a lot younger than him, and he was like, no. But now she's older and they're still the same age gap, but it's different because she is older and they have to quarantine together, and it's so sweet. I really liked it, and I have high hopes for her new release that's coming out next year that I do have an e-arc of, and I'm excited to read it. Another author I discovered is Danielle Jensen with The Bridge Kingdom. I'm always looking for really good new fantasy romance authors, and I read this because my sister read it and really enjoyed it. I think this one I got in a Bay Crate box, and my sister said it was great. And so what I did not know about these books though is I believe all of them were published as Audible exclusives first. And so book 3 I think is already out on Audible only, and I think it's like over 6 months until it's going to come out in paperback, which makes me so sad that this book exists and I can't read it because it's Audible exclusive. But these are like hate to love. She is an assassin sent to marry him and kill him, and they fall in love. And so this book series is so good. I love a good hate to love. I love it when they literally are trying to kill each other, and I love fantasy romances. So I'm excited that I discovered this author, and I'm definitely want to read more of her backlist, which I know is on Kindle Unlimited. The next is an author from the Historical Romance Readathon, and that is Grace Calloway. We read her for, I think in the summer, we picked this book to read. I loved it. It is like a Charlie's Angels historical romance, and she is in love with someone who's much older that knew her as a child. He actually like saved her life when she was a child, and she is a woman now, and she's like, now he's gonna see me as a woman and want me. And he's very, very possessive and overbearing though, because his wife, who passed away, liked to really play head games with him, and so he gets angry if he's lied to or anything, and so she is a spy and has to lie to him, and it's so good. I do have the second book that I cannot wait to read, but I love Grace Calloway. Then I have Carla Sorensen, and if you guys know, it's Faked in Florida, the only 2 I can think of, and those are the middle 2. One I haven't read and one I didn't love, but I loved book 1, and book 4, maybe it's Forbidden. I loved book 4. Books 1 and 4 I loved, and then I went back and read their brother's story, and I want to read more by her. These are the Ward sister series, and the brother's actually a professional football player, and the first book is a professional football player too, and I really like that. But the 4th one, he was an ex-fighter, and he has a single dad and a widower, and she is younger than him, and she actually grew up with his posters on her walls because she loved him, and it is so good. She works at the gym that he just bought, and I really enjoy this one, and I'm excited to read more from Carla Sorensen because I love her contemporaries. And the last author I have is actually Kyra Andrews, and this one's another indie romance author, but she writes both contemporary and historical, and I've read both and love them. I recently read Kidnapped by the Pirate, and I really enjoyed this one, and I've also read her baseball one though, Calling the Signs, I think. I love this one too. It is, the one is a pitcher and one is a catcher, and they end up being on the same baseball team, but they kind of grew up together because the catcher is older than him and was best friends with his brother, and so he's always had a crush on him, and it is so good. I love a good sports romance, especially if it's MM, and I just really like this, and I'm excited to read more from Kyra Andrews. My library has so much of her backlist, so I can't wait to get to them. And those are the authors that I've discovered this year that I absolutely love, and I'm glad that I finally read them, and they're just my favorites now. So let me know down below if you've read any of these authors, if you have any books that you love by them I haven't read, or if you've discovered new authors this year. I would love to hear. As always, thank you so much for watching, and have a good day. Bye.